if we work hard, we at least get a chance at achieving what we want to achieve here, more so than a lot of other places. And so that has really driven me to work hard and, essentially reach the potential that I can, given the chance that I've been given here.
Hey everyone, my name is Arman and welcome to USAM Podcast Season 2. Our today's guest is a guest that my team, Cyan and Max, and shout out to both of them. This the podcast we've been recording. You all see me on the camera, but like it's such a great teamwork. It would have not been possible without Cyan and Max. And the thing about Cyan and Max, if they told me to like, hey, I gotta talk to somebody, I gotta interview someone for the podcast, I say yes, because I just like these people know so many amazing people, and anytime I listen to Cyan and Max, like it all ended up in blessings and good. And today I'm very grateful that we're going to talk to you, Mateo. How are you doing today?
Good, doing great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm doing pretty good. Great to get to know you a little bit. So, Mateo, we always start with a very simple question. Our podcast started with like a simple question, but this question leads us in very interesting journeys, and it's very unique. Every person gives a unique answer about the story. And about the question. And the question is, Mateo, what is your story?
Yeah, so I think my story starts a little bit before I was born, actually. Kind of more into my background and kind of my roots, and those have kind of formed who I am today in a way. And so I would go as back as far as like my grandparents. They lived in Italy during World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And during that war, they moved to Guatemala, where they live now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where my father was born. And so my father as well, living in Guatemala, also then emigrated to the United States, where I was born. And so that has kind of shaped who I am today. The number of challenges that my family's gone through to be able to get to where we are today is something that I value a lot. And to see how much we've had to persevere to get to where we are has really motivated me to do as much as I can in the position that I am. And I think that it's fairly important to acknowledge that and listen to those stories about how difficult it was to be able to get to the United States on a green card and, essentially fight to be able to survive here. Of course, now we're doing, pretty well, and I think it just really motivates me to do more, especially for the Latinx community, and be able to make sure that we can thrive here, especially in the U.S.
So you start a family. Family. And I was talking to Max, and I asked Max, what topics are good to talk to Mateo about? And Max told me you're a hardworking person. You are a very hardworking person, and you have amazing goals for your future that you're pursuing right now. I want to know, as a hardworking person, what was the role of family to kind of inspire you to be very hardworking and resilient?
Yeah, so I think that I've always thought about this a lot, and I think part of it comes from, internal motivation, but I think that a good part of that is seeing or hearing my grandfather talk about, struggling to live in Guatemala. I mean, we pretty much had, nothing. And hearing about that, and then, my father also coming to the U.S. with nothing. We have this history of like perseverance and being able to, persevere through difficult times and work really hard. And so I think that's where that kind of part comes from in a way. And yeah, I'd say family is a big part of that, but especially, coming from kind of an outside perspective to people already living in the US, it's made me realize, how much opportunity there is here, and that, if we work hard, we at least get a chance at achieving what we want to achieve here, more so than a lot of other places. And so that has really driven me to work hard and, essentially reach the potential that I can, given the chance that I've been given here.
And did your in your childhood did you face poverty just coming here and your parents trying to build up? Was that something that you struggled with?
Yeah, I would say that happened more like 2 generations ago. That being said, it still wasn't easy for us, at least in the beginning. But I think that like I've been pretty fortunate to be able to go to Guatemala and do a lot there in terms of helping people. And yeah, for sure, going there and, going outside the city, you can see just how difficult it is for a lot of people there. And that certainly motivates me to kind of use what I have today and work harder and, at some point get to a point where I feel comfortable that I can, really give back in a meaningful way, more in a monetary sense. I have had the opportunity to go there. When I was younger, I'd go there pretty much every summer to either go to school or to work. So more recently, it's been to work at our family businesses. And we have a lot of things that we do over there for other people. So
How different Guatemala is to here?
Yeah, so it's pretty different. Obviously it's like more of the size of a state, and so all the population pretty much is in one city, Guatemala City, and yeah, I would say one of the things that I noticed the most is probably the like inequality, like wealth inequality. Pretty much, there's like very, wealthy class, and then there's, pretty much a class that has like nothing. And it's very, very obvious there. And especially in the US, recently we've kind of been headed towards that, which is a little bit dangerous. But yeah, especially there, it's there's a very clear divide.
Where did you grow up? You did not grow up there though. You said you went there summer, right?
Yeah, so I pretty much I was born in Ohio, and then I mostly grew up in Salem, Oregon, but I would be in Guatemala like a third of the year. So I was pretty much there a lot of my childhood too. So
experiencing what's happening here in the US, and then you go to Guatemala, and definitely, as a child, where kids tend to have a very curious mind and why this is like this, but it's not like that back home. We make a lot of comparisons, like, because we keep asking questions. What are some questions you're asking yourself?
Yeah, so that's actually a really good question. And I'll point to a time that I was in Chile, going to school as well. I kind of went to school in a few different places when I was younger. But I had this conversation with someone who's related to me, and it was mostly about like scales of corruption, I would say. And he kind of pointed out that a lot of the corruption in, like Guatemala kind of area, it's more, you pay to do certain things, pay to like cut a line, things like that. And then of course at the government level, there's some things that go on. But then kind of at the time I was very young and still kind of had this perspective that the US was mostly something good. And he kind of pointed out to me that like the corruption that happens here is at like a much massive scale, a lot larger in terms of like the number of people affected and things like that. And so that was something I always kind of wondered was, how can it be, kind of prevented, especially in like Central America and Guatemala. And another question that I would always wonder is like a lot of the leaders, especially in Guatemala, like the presidents, they're all white. And I found that very weird because most of the population there is not, very white. And so I always wondered why seemed like pretty much only white people were in positions of power there. So that's something that I always kind of questioned or wondered. And of course, yeah, I'm pretty fair skinned as well. But yeah, that's something I was always curious about because it just didn't really make sense because I'd go to school and most people were of, Mayan ancestry or, from like locals, basically.
Yeah.
None of them looked that way. So it's just very, very interesting to see where most of the power and the money resided.
So as a kid, seeing all of these, and you also sound like you're very close to your family too, and
Yeah.
And your dad. So what are some conversations you're having with your dad? When you face all of these kind of differences from Guatemala and United States, and what are some conversations you're having with your dad, and what is he telling you?
Yeah. So I think one of the more earlier conversations I had with him were about how to succeed here. And I think that one big thing that he noticed when he first got here was like how massive everything was. Like everyone owned a car. Uh, everyone had like a huge truck, especially in Ohio, and so he always wondered like, how is it possible they can afford this, like I can't even like fathom how this is possible. And so that was kind of my first few like conversations with him, I would say, is about like management of debt in the US and how a lot of people don't seem to be able to manage it very well. Like making sure that we live within our means. And I think especially being a little bit more careful with money, I think it's a lot easier to do once you see that, once you come from, very little, how important it is to kind of make sure that you live within your means. And yeah, especially here, the amount of consumerism, that was kind of the first few things I talked about. But then we've also talked a lot about just kind of what it means to be like a Guatemalan here, and kind of the responsibilities that come with that. We always hope to be able to like give back to Guatemala and be able to kind of move the society there forward. And so I was heavily involved in going back to the country. Like this summer, for example, I'll be going back there. And that's always been like really important to us as well. And, especially how important it is to keep a close family, kind of pass down these stories of our struggles coming to, pretty much every generation in the past few have like had to do some huge, mass exodus to some other country. And so yeah, it's always important to kind of talk about those difficulties and, listen to those and take away what we can from those. So that's what I've been doing a lot.
So I can relate to you pretty well because I am an international student here, and I'm coming from Iran, which is a country that it's the same thing. It's either you're wealthy or you're poor,
Yeah.
and it's been also very shocking the day that I came to United States, and I came alone when I was 17. When I came here and I see, wow, how things are different. You know, one of the main things I noticed when I came here was the cars. Like, why all
Yeah.
everyone driving fancy cars?
Yeah.
Like the cars that like people drive here are usually the cars that wealthy people drive back home. I was
Right.
like,
Yeah.
wow, how different it is. So, what are some of the goals that you have moving forward? Like having all these experiences. What were some of the goals that you have shaped within yourself that you want to accomplish?
Yeah. So I think definitely one of the things that I want to do or have been doing is kind of, getting kind of students in Guatemala, like kind of a broader perspective about what's, possible outside of the country and also within the country. There's a lot of like government spending on scholarships for people to kind of go out of the country and then come back and kind of, create businesses and things like that. So I've been having a few like presentations in some college classes just to kind of talk about experiences abroad and things like that. And it's been really great just to see how motivated a lot of young students are to get out there and kind of go outside the country and then hopefully be able to give back in some way. So that's been a really huge goal of mine. I think the second, especially related to Guatemala, is being able to just give back in any way, especially like I've done things like, working with certain organizations to build homes, things like that. But we kind of want to go further than that, trying to figure out ways to kind of bridge the wealth inequality that's been, ever present, which is a much bigger goal. And at that point, you kind of think like, well, where do you start? And things like that. So those are kind of the two main ones, I would say. And, especially with that second one, how can we do something similar here in the US is pretty big. I'm trying to kind of start a business essentially that just creates money for people. So I like to think of it as like a private UBI. In a sort of way, and still very early. But I'm hoping that one day I can use that to just give a little bit more like purchasing power to people in other countries, especially Guatemala, where the opportunities are more scarce. And that, with a little bit of money, they'd be able to go to school and really be able to further their education, especially their like public schools, they don't have very much funding. And so most people go to private schools if they have money. And so it's something that should probably change.
Do you ever want to get into public service?
Yeah, I think that that's definitely something that would be cool. My only, concern there, public service there directly is a little dangerous. But I think that, yeah, for sure it will need to come from within. And being of Guatemalan blood, that's definitely something that's open. But in order to make it successful, I think you need to have the right people around you there to run the government. It's a little bit difficult. Yeah. So
For sure.
but I think, I mean, like most recently, there was, multiple levels of government, like corruption that happened a few years ago. And, billions were pretty much taken from taxpayers and stuff like that. And so that's a little bit harder to kind of filter through, especially coming in.
So let's get into more of the questions that we can get to know how you think. And
Okay.
the main one I want to ask you is like a more of an imagination question. So let's do a quick imagination together. Let's imagine Mateo is turning 80 years old and your birthday is March 6th, right?
April 6th. Yeah.
Right, April. I don't know why I thought. Okay, your birthday is April.
Yeah.
I don't know how many years. This is 2060, April 6th. You are coming back home from maybe buying groceries. You went to buy some groceries. You're coming back home and you see a lot of different cars by your house. You recognize some of them, and there's some that you don't know who are they, who are those people. You walk in your house and this is a surprise birthday party. So you're getting surprised for your 80th birthday. And in this birthday, those that you knew their cars, they're your family members or close friends. And those that you don't know their cars are people that somehow, sometime in the past, you have helped. So you receive 2 letters. One from the close family members and your close friends, and you receive another letter from those that you have helped in the past. And they know you, and you know them when you see them, but like you were not very in contact with them. So I want you to first tell me what these letters are all about you and what you have meant to them. I want you to tell me what does the first letter, which is from the family and friends, is about. What do you want that letter to say?
Okay, what I want the letter to say. I don't know, if I were to open to that letter from my close friends or close family, I think I'd want, if I'm 80, I think I'd want it to kind of talk about, hopefully mention that I've been, good, father, if that happens, and that, they're proud of me in some way for what I've been able to accomplish during my lifetime. I think towards that time, it's getting closer to the time to go. So I just hope that at that stage of my life that I'm kind of passing on what I've learned in my lifetime to other people in my family, kind of relaying the things that I've learned and the things that my grandfather taught me. I think that I'd want them to kind of already have an idea for that, and also talk about things that I've been able to do with them. I would, some families I notice they don't necessarily stay in contact generation to generation. They don't know their grandparents, and I would hope that that would not be the case for me. I definitely want to know my entire family, and it's always been like that for my family. So I hope that that continues, and that's what I'd want to be in there mostly.
And the second letter is from the people that you have seen somewhere in your journey, you have helped them, or you made an influence or inspiration in them. And these people have been watching you grow. You may not have been in contact with them, but they have been following you, following your journey. And they're also writing you a letter that is all about the impact that you have made, and the inspiration that you have been in their lives. What do you want this letter to say?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd almost want it to be blank, to be honest. Like, I don't think I do or want to do this to like receive accolades or anything like that. And like, I'd almost rather them be able to like take away from it what they can and use that to build their own future. And yeah, I think it'd be nice if they maybe said that I'd been able to help them in some way, achieve their goals of what they wanted to do. Especially it'd be very nice to see some fellow Guatemalans be able to thrive in Guatemala or in this country. That would be very impactful, I think, to show that I had, been able to help in some way. And yeah, I hope that, I don't need them to necessarily thank me for it or anything. I just, do it because that's what I want to do. And I hope that it's powerful for them. And so, yeah, it doesn't need to be anything written, really.
Amazing. Mateo, are you an emotional person?
Yeah, I would say so. I'd say some in some ways it shows more than others, in certain settings, I would say.
What gets you very emotional?
Yeah, I would say one thing that gets me pretty emotional would be hearing or just seeing kind of what humanity has done to certain animal species. I don't know. It's always kind of impacted me since I was a kid. That's kind of one of the things I want to also be able to focus on. Is just being able to preserve all the different animals that we have here, and especially with climate change, kind of seeing a lot of different animals go away. And yeah, that's something that gets me pretty emotional. I'd say that's something on more of the, human level interaction. Just seeing, people choose not to help others, just kind of stay in their own lane or refuse to kind of help people out. And I think that that's ever present just because I've kind of had that perspective of what it means to really have nothing. And especially here in the US, to see people not kind of willing to always help out or kind of always thinking about only themselves is kind of sad. And so that's kind of affected me in a way. And yeah, I hope to kind of change that mindset of me, basically.
More we talk and more I feel like you are someone that we need within the government or like somewhere in public service, man. Like the way that you think and the purposes that you have, they're all very aligned with that type of work. I think if you if you end up doing it, I think you'll be a very amazing person, and you can do amazing stuff in public service. Yeah. Um, so, are you a relatable person, Mateo?
I would think so. Yeah. In
How
general,
are
I
you?
think I'm pretty relatable. Yeah. I mean, I think I can kind of relate to a lot of kind of things that people are going to. I think I'm a good, listener. Um, I think I understand well some of the more complex, like human kind of, I don't know, emotions and things like that, how people might be feeling. And I think that makes me a little bit more relatable, hopefully. And yeah, I mean, I think it's really important to be pretty relatable, especially in, pretty much every aspect of your life. That way you're not just like a wall that people are talking to. So yeah, I think that just being able to have some empathy really is more or less what it takes to be relatable. Know what people are going through and how that affects them, trying to help out where you can. And yeah, I think empathy is the big one there. So.
Um, one of the things I usually, first of all, let me add this. I asked the relatable question because I personally believe we all can relate to one another if we can just spend some time and get to know each other better. When you hear other people's stories, and that's why we're doing this podcast, and you hear other people's stories, you see how you can really relate to them, in terms of like what they went through, the challenges and the failures and the success and everything. One other thing I really want to ask you, which is, I think you will give a very interesting answer based on the journey that you have been went through. Is Mateo, if you want to choose one moment in your whole journey or one period of time that was very, very crucial, and it was that event that really shaped you as a person, your ideas, what would that be? It could be a challenge that you went through. It could be a dark place that you've been. What would it be?
Yeah, I think I've certainly had many like personal challenges in my life.
Yeah.
But I think the one that's most impacting me right now was when like a few summers ago, I think it was in high school, I was in Guatemala to do more like volunteering than work. Yeah, usually I work for our family businesses in Guatemala. And yeah, this time I was mostly focused on volunteering. And yeah, I helped build like a home for someone there. And, at the time, I didn't feel like I was really making like a big impact for them. And, once it was finished, spent several days working on it with a ton of other people, to see them come out and the emotions that they had, for us having been able to do that for them. I honestly think that was a big turning point for me, just being able to see what type of impact I can have on people. Like I think at the time I didn't really think that I could really have that impact ever on anyone. And so to see them extremely emotional, that this was going to essentially, save their family from, having no home to live in, especially in Guatemala. It's kind of, it's tropical, so you get rained on a lot and stuff, and there's storms. So that for me was like a huge turning point. Just being able to see that I could really have an impact, that I'm in a very privileged position to be able to help other people, and that I kind of made a promise to myself that I would always look to do that in every aspect of my life. And Yeah, I think that was really important for me to be able to see that I could have an impact like that.
That's amazing. You know, seeing that joy that your work has created, and that making you feel emotional. Yeah, that's very interesting. That's an amazing story. Um, I think because you work very hard and you have a big purpose. You said you're starting a startup too, and a business, and so I want to know how do you deal with, how do you overcome failures that you face?
Yeah, certainly. When I first started out, I did not handle them well, I would say. I was, very competitive. Like, I didn't like to lose, I guess. But, as I grew older, realized you don't really lose unless you don't take something away from your failure. And you kind of need them to grow. Um, if you're kind of always right, it's kind of harder to learn. And so kind of embraced that kind of aspect of failure, that it's actually very important that you try many things and think of different ideas and fail fast, essentially. I think that that's been very important, and especially with startups and stuff. Things don't work out. It takes you 10 tries before one of them kind of starts to be successful. And so part of that's just figuring out good frameworks to get things up and running, kind of things that I want to learn. And yeah, I think I've especially been able to learn that failures are extremely important. And yeah, it used to bother me a lot when I couldn't be successful, and I think that was just due to my drive. And I adjusted that a bit to kind of accept that and be able to learn from those failures. And it's like, okay, well, if I were to do this again, how would I do this differently, knowing what I know now, and approach this problem in a different way that might have a better chance of being successful? And yeah. And I think a big thing with that too is like not being afraid to like let people down in some cases, just because I have a huge standard for myself, and some of those standards are not always like attainable, and so I had to realize that it's okay to not always be successful every time. And that it's really unlikely for that to happen anyways. And so I think that, just changing my perspective on how those failures happen is really important, and just making sure I take something away from them is monumental.
Oh, um, are you optimistic?
I'm neutral. Not very optimistic about humans, but I think I'm optimistic about what we're capable of. I don't know. I've kind of thought about this a lot, and I think that we need like a rather large kind of paradigm shift in the way that we think about how society works, and where we attribute value in society. I think, especially now, it's just, I think it's too focused on monetary aspects, kind of trying to make a profit always, instead of focusing on, people, making sure that everyone can succeed, and like sustainability, which I feel like has been neglected for many years now, in kind of more like corporate America area. But I am hopeful that we have a shot to change that. So,
so you said you're not optimistic about people. What do you mean by that?
well, I just think, like, I don't know. I would say that in not people in general, I'd say those that have the power to change things the easiest seem to always want to keep the status quo. And that's where I get a little bit concerned. You know, like the wealth inequality in the US is growing a lot. And so I feel like too much right now in society, the amount of money that you have dictates how much of like how much power you have to switch around the way that we implement rules in our society and things like that. And I think that that should be changed. So yeah, I guess I would say more the select few who are in power. I'm worried that they don't have a reason to change the way that they're doing it because they're being very successful. Meanwhile, you know, everyone else kind of seems to be struggling, and they kind of don't really see a need to blow it up and change that because they're successful, so they don't really care, you know. Yeah. So I hope that that doesn't get in the way. I just get worried that, you know, things like big societal, you know, problems like climate change, you know, we've known about them for 40 years, you know, and collectively, not much has been done so far to prevent like this huge change, right? And so, although we have pockets of, you know, research in certain countries doing it, you know, the U.S., one of the biggest consumerist nations, still seems to be way behind on a lot of those fronts. And so, yeah, it's just, you know, at some point we're going to have to do something, and it's starting to get late. So.
Joe, you talk a lot about being successful and helping people to be successful. What does that really mean to have people getting successful? What do you think people should do, or do you think someone should do something for them so they can be successful?
Yeah, I think that so I think the current meaning of success that I would say is, of course, to be happy, and like I think that that sometimes gets like forgotten in certain areas. Like I think that I would be most happy being able to like help people achieve what they want to achieve in their lifetimes. And I know that in the, you know, kind of the current constructs of our society, the best way I feel like to be able to do that at this point is have some way to like amass wealth and be able to help people achieve their dreams that way. I think that huge barrier to people doing what they really want is like a lack of being able to do that financially. And so I want to be able to kind of take that strain away and let people do what they want to be able to do. So it's just, you know, the reality of it is most people that are able to work, you know, work most of their lives. And so it's a little bit harder to be able to do what you want to do when you have to work 3 hours a week.
So, you know, I really want to ask more about it. And yeah. So, you know, you said success means really being happy. And at the same time, you say that people need some finances to make that success happen.
Yeah.
What I'm very curious is basically why. So because like you said, back in generations,
yeah,
in your family, they did not they were facing poverty and all this kind of stuff, but they made the success happen over time, you know. And so I wonder, first question is this, when do you think people will be truly happy? When do you think people will be truly happy? And let's answer this, and then I'm going to ask you a follow-up.
Okay. Yeah, I think people would likely be truly happy if, I mean, I think we can try to achieve that for most people, but I think that they'd be happy, like being able to do whatever it is they want to do, as long as that doesn't harm other people. And like I think my point about having the financial freedom to be able to do that is just a reality of what we live in today. Like you can't, necessarily do whatever you want to do unless you're, able to, pay your way to get there in some cases. Be able to provide food for yourself. I think that it's probably a little bit harder to be happy if you don't have the hierarchy of needs in order to kind of survive. But I think that it's important to go past just survival and get to a point where you're able to actually thrive in the world and just have the ability to do whatever it is you want. And I think that, part of that comes from kind of the way that our schooling works, kind of told like, oh, you should be a, I don't know, doctor, because that's a good career. But I think there's a lot less focus on finding what you're truly passionate about when you're younger. So yeah, I think that would be something, at least so that you can explore different areas and figure out kind of where you find yourself happy. And I ultimately, I think that most people would be happy like helping others. I really do think that. And that feeling you get when you know that you've done something good for someone and you can see that, I just really think that is something that makes everyone happy, whether I want to admit it or not, I guess.
The other day I made this post on my Instagram. We can create so many mission statements, but there is only one mission statement that we can truly relate to. And on the caption I wrote, do not tell me I want to help people. That's not a mission statement. And the reason I said that is because helping people is just so broad.
Yeah.
You can help people by grabbing them a cup of water, or you can help them, help them to find their passion, or help them to like buy a house, or help them this kind of stuff. So, I think I know where you're going with this, and the helping people is very broad, but at the same time, I feel like when you find that purpose and the passion that you were talking about, usually that passion involves some type of helping people or some type of making impact or influencing. I just want to put this out there. Because if you really, this is my opinion, if you really want to be successful, you need to be specific. You need to be specific about what your mission, what your why, and what your purpose is. Because when you say I just want to help people, there's just so many ways. We can only do too much. We cannot be a doctor, engineer, lawyer, a president, all of those. Also do help with all of this. So I just want to put it out there that I hope people to be a little more specific about how do they want to help people and find that purpose and passion that you are talking about. Because I very agree with you that passion, when you find that passion, that really brings us happiness. I wish Mateo, we could talk more about this, but we almost getting close to the end of the podcast, and I really want to ask you this final question, which I think your answer will be amazing. And that question is, Mateo, what is the biggest lesson you ever learned in your life?
Yeah, so that's a big one. I obviously learned, many lessons. I think that the one that's been most impactful would be, I think it would be kind of, being able to like when I was younger, for example, I don't know, it was an interesting lesson that I kind of learned, seeing at that point when I was younger, especially in Guatemala, when, I was working at these businesses and for my family, kind of realizing, what type of position we're in essentially. I think that I asked my grandfather, like, why can't we do more essentially, to, provide some of the financial aid to certain areas that we can right now. And he mentioned something about being able to like help yourself or get yourself in a stable position before you can help kind of other people. And I think that was an important lesson just because at the time I felt like I had to kind of be able to help people in every aspect of their life at a young age. And I think it's important to establish a base at some point to be able to do that. That way that, you can, feed yourself first. That way you have a strong base of support for other people if they need it. And, if you're not there yet, then it's going to be a little harder to be able to do that. And so I think that was an important lesson, especially because beforehand I was so just wanting to do all these things before having like an established base. And so I think that was an important lesson. And it kind of changed my perspective.
Wow. Yeah, I love that. I usually say it in this way: you cannot help others without helping yourself first. The other day I was listening to this podcast and they were like, I see a lot of people talking about this and that, but like they haven't done it themselves yet. How do you expect people to do something that you haven't done it yourself yet?
Yeah, so exactly.
It's all about that. So I want to ask you, tell you a couple of words, and you just give me one answer, one word answer about how you feel about these topics, these words.
Okay.
Guatemala.
Pride.
Family.
Important.
US.
Help.
Passion.
Drive.
OSU.
Success.
Mateo.
Helpful.
And this conversation.
Eye-opening.
Thank you so much, Mateo, for being our guest today. I really think if not through this podcast, but I really want to continue this conversation with you because I like your thoughts, and we can have very interesting conversations. So we call ourselves Yes I Am because we believe you can put any word in front of it and be that person. What would Mateo put in front of Yes I Am?
I would say just any word. Yeah, okay. I would say impactful.
Yes, I'm impactful. Sounds good. Thank you so much, Mateo, for being our guest, and it's been great talking to you. We always come to this episodes with an open mind, and we leave this episode very inspired. And thank you for inspiring us today, Mateo. Thank you everyone for watching this episode. If you enjoyed it, give it a like, and make sure to follow our Instagram at YA_YesIam. Till next time, Yes I Am.